I'm Zoe. I'm 29 years old, and on the day my company finally landed $1 million client, my boss looked me straight in the eye and said, "Congratulations to me, not congratulations to us, not even good job, Zoe." That deal was my idea, my sleepless nights, my weekends sacrificed yet minutes later. I watched him stand on a stage and take full credit for everything I'd done. By the end of that month, he tried to fire me for underperformance. What he didn't know was that while he was busy stealing my work, I was quietly learning exactly how to take everything back. I work in marketing at a tech company called Brightline Digital. Or at least, I used to. When I first joined, I was this eager, overachieving 20-something who believed hard work always pays off. My mom, Linda, raised me alone and worked herself to the bone cleaning houses so I could go to college. I promised myself that one day I'd make enough money to take care of her the way she took care of me. So when I got the job at Brightline, I was determined to prove myself. Long nights, early mornings, volunteering for extra projects, I did it all. I didn't complain. I was the reliable one, the one who always said yes, and that was exactly what my boss, Eric, loved about me. "Zoe, you're a rock star," he would say, flashing his charming smile that everyone thought was sincere. "I don't know what I'd do without you." He was in his late 30s, expensive suit, perfect hair, perfect teeth. On the outside, he was the picture of success. But underneath, he was something else entirely, a parasite who fed on other people's work. At first, I didn't see it. I just felt proud. When he praised me, it felt like validation. Then the Horizonic account appeared. Horizonic was this massive software company looking for a new marketing agency. The kind of client that could make or break someone's career. Our whole team was buzzing when we heard about the pitch. Eric called an emergency meeting and flashed the brief on the screen. "This," he said, pacing at the front of the room, "is our moment. We nail this, and Brightline becomes a serious player." I sat there, pen in hand, heart pounding. I wanted this. Not just for the company, for me, for my mom, for all the bills she still struggled to pay. Eric looked around the room. "Any big ideas?" There was silence. A couple of generic suggestions. Nothing that stuck. He looked disappointed, and something inside me pushed me forward. "I have one," I said. Everyone turned. I swallowed. Horizonic is trying to sell software in a way that feels cold and technical. But their biggest audience is young freelancers and remote workers who care more about lifestyle and freedom than specs. What if we stop marketing the product and start marketing the lifestyle it creates? Eric raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "We build a campaign around real stories. Real people using their software to build lives they love. Video diaries, short-form content, a social media challenge where people share their horizon moments. We turn the brand into a community." The room lit up. People started nodding. "That's actually really good," said Mia, my colleague, smiling at me. I felt my cheeks flush. Eric stared at me with this calculating look and then said, "All right, Zoe, your lead on this. Develop it. I'll of course supervise." Of course. For the next month, I poured everything into that pitch. I stayed in the office until midnight most days. I skipped dinners with my mom. I ignored texts from my friends. I wrote scripts. I designed mock-ups. I ran focus groups with almost no budget. I crafted a deck so polished it could blind you. Mia helped where she could, but everyone knew it was my baby. The night before the big presentation, I was sitting alone in the office, eyes burning, hands shaking from too much coffee. Eric walked in, loosening his tie. "You're still here?" he asked. "Just adding the finishing touches," I said, tapping on my laptop. He walked over, stood behind me, and watched the slides transition. "This is impressive," he said quietly. I smiled. "I think we actually have a shot." He put a hand on my shoulder. "You did good, Zoe. Really good." It felt like the proud look a mentor gives a student. I soaked it in. "I needed that. Get some sleep," he added. "I'll present this tomorrow. You've earned a break." I blinked. "Wait, present?" "Of course," he said lightly. "Clients expect me. I'm the director. You know how it is." "Oh, sure," I said, swallowing my disappointment. "Yeah, makes sense." I told myself it didn't matter who presented it. It was still my work. If we got the client, people would know, right? I was wrong. The next day, I sat in the back of the conference room with Mia while Eric presented my campaign to Horizonic. He walked them through each slide with charisma and confidence. his voice smooth and practiced. Our idea, he said, was to humanize your product, to move away from dry specs and build a lifestyle brand. Our idea. That word stung. He moved to the video concept I had storyboarded myself. I wanted to bring in real users and tell their stories. Mia glanced at me, frowning. She knew, I knew, but the clients did in single quotes t.by the time he finished. The horizonic team was practically glowing. This is exactly what we were hoping for, their VP said. You really understand our vision, Eric? I felt invisible, like a ghost in the room. Like my brain had walked out on stage wearing his face. We landed the account. A week later, the company threw a victory party in the office. Music, champagne, balloons. The CEO made a little speech. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Eric, she said, raising her glass. Your leadership secured this deal. We're lucky to have you. Everyone clapped. Eric did that humble, modest laugh people do when they enjoy being worshipped. And of course, his team, she added quickly, like an afterthought. Good job, everyone. Mia squeezed my arm. This is messed up, she whispered. It's fine. I lied. It wasn't. Eric stepped forward. Honestly, this was a group effort, he said. But yes, I did pour my heart into this campaign. Many late nights. Something inside me cracked. After the speech, as people mingled, I escaped to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. Mascara, neat hair, fake smile. I looked like someone playing pretend. Is this what I work for? To be the ghostwriter of someone else's success story. I decided then that I was done being quiet, but the universe wasn't done with me. The following Monday, I got an email from HR. Subject, meeting request performance discussion. My stomach dropped. I walked into the HR office, where Karen, our HR manager, and Eric were already seated. Zoe. Thanks for coming, Karen said, her voice calm. Eric gave me a tight smile. Have a seat. I sat down, heart hammering. Karen folded her hands. We've reviewed your recent performance, and unfortunately the leadership team has some concerns. I blinked. Concerns? About what? Eric sighed dramatically. Zoe, your attitude lately hasn't been great. You've seemed disengaged, less collaborative. I stared at him. What? I've been working nonstop for months. Karen glanced at her notes. We've also heard feedback that you've been difficult to work with on the horizonic account. I haven't even been in the client calls. I snapped. Eric shook his head sadly. This isn't the Zoe I hired. It hit me all at once. He wanted me gone. He had squeezed everything he could out of me, taken credit for my work, and now that he'd gotten his promotion, yes, he'd just been promoted to senior director, he wanted to make sure I couldn't contest anything, couldn't expose him. Karen cleared her throat. At this time, we're putting you on a performance improvement plan. You'll have 60 days to meet certain expectations. If not, we may have to discuss termination. My ears rang. A pip. That was basically a countdown to being fired. I looked at Eric. He refused to meet my eyes. So let me get this straight, I said slowly, my voice shaking. I come up with the campaign that lands this company its biggest client. You present it, take the credit. And now I'm the one whose performance is in question. Karen's eyes widened. Zoe, that's not what this is about actually. Eric cut in. This is about professionalism. Comments like that are exactly what we're concerned about. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Professionalism? You mean staying quiet while you steal my work? His jaw clenched, just for a second. Then he smiled. You're emotional right now. I get it. But let's try to stay constructive. I realized he'd already built a story about me. Emotional, difficult, hard to work with. If I blew up, I'd be proving him right. So I took a breath. Then another. I stood up slowly. Fine, I said. Send me the plan. And I walked out. I didn't cry at my desk. I didn't scream. I sat down, opened a blank document, and wrote 3 words at the top. Make this right. Because if they wanted a professional, I could be very, very professional about revenge. That night, I called the one person I trusted at work, Mia. We met at a small cafe, and as soon as I sat down, she asked, what happened? You looked like you'd seen a ghost when you left. I told her everything. The pip, the accusations, the way Eric twisted the narrative. By the time I finished, Mia's hands were clenched around her cup so hard her knuckles turned white. He can't do that, she hissed. That's evil. Oh, he can, I said. And he did. She was quiet for a moment thinking. Then she leaned in. Zoe, You know he's done this before, right? My stomach flipped. What do you mean? He did something similar to James in product marketing last year. James pitched a new feature bundle idea. Eric loved it. A few months later, James was put on a PIP. Eric got promoted. James resigned. I swallowed. Did anyone say anything? Mia shook her head. Everyone was scared. And James didn't have proof. The word stuck in my mind. Proof. I sipped my coffee slowly, gears turning in my brain. What if I got proof? I asked quietly. Mia looked at me. What are you thinking? I still have everything, I said. Drafts, timestamps, emails, chat logs. I can show exactly when I created each part of that campaign. I can show how he asked me to send him editable files before the pitch. I can show how I wasn't invited to the client meetings after the pitch. Her eyes widened. You might actually have a case. More than that, I said. Horizontic should know. They signed with us because they thought they were getting his genius. They weren't. They were getting mine. Mia hesitated. Zoe, going to the client, that's risky. So is quietly letting him destroy my career, I replied. We sat in silence for a moment. The calf noise hummed around us. Then Mia said, if you do this, I'll back you up. I'll tell the truth. Emotion clogged my throat. Are you sure? She nodded. I'm tired of watching him step on people. That night, I started building my own kind of pitch, not for a client, for justice. Over the next 2 weeks, I became my own investigator. I compiled the original deck I'd created, with metadata showing when it was made, email threads where Eric said, love your idea, develop it further, Slack messages where I sent him updated versions and he replied, perfect, I'll present this, calendar invites where I was mysteriously left off every client meeting after the pitch, my work logs showing the hours I put into the campaign. Mia sent me her own emails, where she wrote things like, Zoe's concept is really coming together. Emails that included Eric in the thread. I organized everything into a folder titled Horizon Ownership Evidence, but I didn't stop there. I started documenting everything about the PIP, every vague criticism, every moving goalpost, every time Eric gave me unclear instructions and then criticized the result. I wrote dates, times, direct quotes. I wasn't just fighting for my job anymore. I was building a record. One night, after my mom made me her famous chicken soup and kept asking, are you okay, honey? I finally told her. She listened quietly, eyes soft but fierce. When your father left, she said, I promised myself I'd never let anyone make me feel small again. It took me years to keep that promise. Don't let this man take from you what I fought so hard to give. What if I lose my job? I whispered. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. Then we figure it out, but you don't lose yourself. That was all I needed. The turning point came when HR pulled me aside again. 2 weeks into my PIP, Zoe, Karen said, we've been monitoring your progress, and frankly, we're not seeing the improvement we expected. Can you give me specific examples? I asked calmly, voice steady. She flipped through her notes. Your initiative has been lacking. You haven't contributed much to new brainstorming sessions. I've been excluded from most meetings, I replied. By Eric. Karen looked uncomfortable. Well, that's a scheduling matter. I took a breath. The moment had arrived. Karen, I said, I have reason to believe this PIP is retaliatory. Her eyes snapped up. Excuse me? It began right after the Horizontic campaign, I said. The campaign I created. The campaign Eric presented as his own. I have documentation. She frowned. Zoe, these are serious accusations. I know, I said. That's why I'm not making them lightly. I'd like to formally request an internal investigation. She hesitated. Do you already have legal representation? Not yet, I said, but I'm prepared to get some if necessary. Her face tightened. All right, she said slowly. Send me what you have. I walked out of that room on shaking legs, but inside, something felt solid, rooted. Eric must have sensed something was off because he called me into his office later. He closed the door and leaned against his desk. So, he said, HR tells me you're making bold claims, truthful claims, I corrected. He smirked. Zoe, come on, you're smarter than this. You really want to burn your career over bruised feelings? Anger flared in my chest. This isn't about feelings. It's about the fact that you stole my work and then tried to get rid of me so I couldn't prove it. He stepped closer. You think anyone will believe you over me? I'm the director. You're the junior manager on a PIP. Not for long, I said quietly. His eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? It's a prediction. We stared at each other, the air crackling. Careful, Zoe, he said finally. You're playing a dangerous game. So are you, I replied. The difference is I'm playing it with receipts. A week later, I got an email from Horizontech's new brand manager, Ava. Hi Zoe, would you be available for a quick call sometime this week? I'd love to hear more about your creative process on the Horizon Moments concept. Best of I stared at the screen. My heart thundered. Eric had clearly told them the campaign was his. So why was Ava reaching out to me? I accepted the meeting. When the call started, Ava appeared on my screen, a woman in her early 30s, sharp eyes, no nonsense. Zoe, thanks for taking the time, she said. Of course, I replied, trying to sound casual even though my palms were sweating. I'll get right to it, she said. We've been working with Brightline for a few weeks now, and while Eric has been leading things, I keep hearing your name from the coordinators. They say you're the one who came up with the original concept. My breath caught. I did, I said. Yes. She nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Because when I asked him some deeper questions about the storytelling arc, he gave very surface-level answers. I wanted to talk to the person who actually understands it. I felt a strange mix of vindication and dread. We spent the next 40 minutes walking through my thinking, my inspiration, how I pictured the campaign evolving over time. By the end, Ava was leaning back in her chair, impressed. Thank you, Zoe, she said. This was incredibly helpful. A few days later, all hell broke loose. I arrived at the office to find a tense silence. People were whispering in corners. Doors were closed. Mia rushed to my desk. Did you hear? She whispered. Hear what? Horizontech requested a call with our CEO. Without Eric. My heart skipped. What? Why? Something about concerns over project leadership. Within hours, rumors were flying. Eric was seen storming out of the CEO's office, red-faced. Horizontech had questioned why the person who created the campaign wasn't the one leading it. Ava had mentioned our call. She had gently implied that misrepresentation of talent was a concern. Internally, Karen had already started reviewing my documentation. The combination was explosive. The next day, I was called into a meeting, this time with the CEO herself, Claudia, and Karen. Eric wasn't there. Zoe, Claudia said, thank you for joining us. I sat down, bracing myself. We've spoken with Horizontech, she continued. They had some clarifying feedback. Karen gave me a small, almost apologetic smile. Claudia folded her hands. They were under the impression that you were the creative lead on their campaign. They seem very impressed with your work. My chest tightened. I appreciate that. We've also reviewed the materials you sent HR, she said. Your drafts, emails, timestamps. It's clear you played a central role, more central than was originally represented. Silence hummed in the room. Zoe, Claudia said carefully, first, I want to apologize. The PIP you were placed on has been revoked, effective immediately. I swallowed hard. Second, she continued, we have decided to place Eric on administrative leave while we conduct a formal investigation into his conduct. Horizontech has requested that you step in as the primary creative lead for their account. The words washed over me like warm water and ice at the same time. I don't know what to say. I managed. Say you'll consider staying, Claudia replied. We'd like to offer you a promotion to senior creative lead along with a raise. Horizontech specifically requested that we do whatever it takes to keep you on their team. Mia's words echoed in my head. You might actually have a case. My mom's words echoed next. Don't lose yourself. I took a breath. Thank you, I said. I appreciate the offer, truly, but I need to be honest. I don't know if I trust this company anymore. Claudia's expression faltered. I gave months of my life to that campaign, I continued. I was nearly pushed out because my boss lied and manipulated and no one noticed until the client said something. Karen looked down. I'm not saying this to be ungrateful, I said. I need time. And I need to know what changes you're going to make so this doesn't happen to someone else. Claudia nodded slowly. That's fair. We're bringing in an external auditor to review our promotion and evaluation processes. And we're establishing a formal credit policy so contributors are properly acknowledged, both internally and externally. She paused. We'd also like you to be part of that discussion, if you're willing. That gave me pause. Maybe. This was my chance. Not just to get revenge but to fix the system that allowed people like Eric to thrive. I thought about my mom. About James. About anyone who would come after me. I'll stay, I said finally. On to conditions. Claudia raised an eyebrow. Go on. 1. I said, I want full creative control over the horizontal campaign, and I want my name on every major deliverable. Done, she said. 2. I continued, when the investigation into Eric concludes, I want transparency. I want the truth, whatever it is, documented. No sweeping it under the rug. Claudia nodded. You have my word. Eric resigned 2 weeks later. Officially, it was to pursue new opportunities. Unofficially, everyone knew. The investigation had found patterns: taking credit, sabotaging subordinates, manipulating performance reviews. He tried to connect with me on LinkedIn. I declined. Horizontal and I built the Horizon Moments campaign exactly the way I'd imagined it. Real stories, real people, real impact. The first time I saw my name in the credits as creative lead Zoe Carter, I cried, quietly, at my desk. Then I called my mom. They're finally seeing you, she said, voice thick with pride. The way I always did. At work, things changed slowly. We started giving public credit in company-wide emails. Junior employees were invited to present their own work. Performance reviews required documented, specific examples. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. And me? I stopped saying yes to everything. I stopped staying late just to prove I was worthy. I started setting boundaries, and people respected them, because revenge, I realized, wasn't just about watching Eric's downfall. It was about reclaiming my voice, my work, my name. If you've ever had someone take credit for your hard work, or make you feel small when you knew you were the one holding everything together, you're not crazy. And you're not alone. You deserve to be seen, to be heard, to have your name on the things you create. If my story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own experience in the comments. Maybe your story of quiet revenge is still being written, and maybe this is your sign to start writing it.